What's Going On? Presented by Alicia Carter, a show focused on everything local to the Adirondacks and the Capital Region.
Hi, my name is Donna Thomas. I am the founder of James Warriors. James Warriors was built on love for my son James Thomas, who died by suicide in October of 2018. He was just 19 years old. James was never diagnosed with a mental health illness. So I started this organization because I quickly realized after James died that many struggle with mental illness, but in secrecy. And I can only imagine how hard that must be and what a struggle and a burden that must feel like for somebody who doesn't tell others how they're feeling. We're hoping through this presentation we talk about coping skills that we can all use to help manage our lives today. There are things like environmental. You know, we have people who are homeless, jobless, and those things affect how we look and view at the world, and coping skills may not be available for those people as well. And the physical deficits that we speak about are your brain, right? This huge, wonderful organ that does so many things, but sometimes it doesn't do the right thing, right? Sometimes it's lacking hormones to help keep us stabilized, like serotonin, and so we talk a little bit about that. I want you to know the depression, and this presentation is gonna be a blend because I have some younger people in here, so I want to talk about some of those things as well, but I want you to know that depression can lead to high-risk behaviors such as sexual addiction and self-harm. So sometimes our people, not just teenagers, right? You hear a lot about self-harm, and sometimes they feel nothing because depression puts this weight on them, and so they end up, some people may use depression medications that are not working, and so they start using cutting and sexual addiction to feel something, right? And then on the other hand, we have people who walk this earth who feel everything. And they may turn to drugs and alcohol because they don't want to feel anything. Suicide is not about being weak. You hear people just say that it's selfish and that they're putting their pain on someone else. So I'm here to tell you that is not their intention. And this is going to sound very sad in a sense, but they're not thinking about you when they're contemplating suicide. They're not thinking about you when they feel lonely. They're listening to their brain send them messages that are most likely not true. Their brain is telling them things like they are a burden. It'll never get easier. People will be better off without them. They will never be happy, and that they are alone. And sometimes, unfortunately, the brain sends messages. The only way to end those thoughts is by suicide. Your brain is an organ, and I talked briefly about this. It doesn't get those hormones that we need, and sometimes we need to use medication. So a couple of things, right? With medication, how do we talk about people who use meds for mental health, right? Sometimes we judge people who use medications for their mental health. And we say things like, and this is as an adult, I was out with a group of women, and one of the acquaintances wasn't at the dinner, and I was told, you know, and I'm sure that person wanted to eat her words afterwards, oh my God, she's like off her meds, and she's so out of control. So unsympathetic, right? Or even as kids in school, right? I always tell the kids at school, do we make fun of people who use insulin for their diabetes, like have a pump, or an inhaler before gym? No. Right? But I do hear kids who know that other children are taking medication, not so nice stuff. The other thing about is let's validate people's feelings, right? In school, I hear all the time like, oh my God, why is she complaining? She has such a great life. She lives in a big house. She has a vacation, 3 times a year. She has this, she has that. She has a whole family. That doesn't mean anything to somebody who's suffering from mental illness, because in their brain, none of those things matter. And so when we don't validate and say, I hear what you're saying, please tell me how I can help you, right? Telling them to like suck it up, buttercup, so unhealthy. And listen, we all have kids that you have to say suck it up, buttercup, like when you're like, you fell, you just want the Disney Band-Aid, I get it. But as we approach those years of development of their brain as young adults, it's very, very important to validate.
I'm Alicia Washington here today with Donna Thomas, founder of James's Warriors. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for sitting in our presentation today.
Glad to be here, and I learned a lot. I'd just like to ask you, since you've started your nonprofit, how many presentations have you done so far and where?
So we actually started in 2020 during COVID. So we did a lot of presentations on like Google Meet or Zoom. The first year we spoke to 2,000 students. The second year we spoke to, I think it was 7,000. And this year I haven't tallied, but we are every year gaining access to more schools. As we present, people then recommend us. We have spoken predominantly in Dutchess County because we had received a grant from Mark Molinaro to speak in Dutchess County schools, whoever wanted to, and they paid us, so they didn't have to pay. Up here, we had women, it's a cause called 100 Women Who Care, and they donated money for us to speak at certain schools here, so we speak frequently at Boston Spa 4 times a year, high school. We spoke in Saratoga, the BOCES program, so we're trying to get into more schools up here. Predominantly, we speak to kids from the ages of middle school or junior high, so 7th grade up until colleges. We did some presentations at Lemoyne and other universities upstate, and we're trying to move into that area because going into college by yourself and dealing with all of these feelings and not having maybe as much support system as you would at home. So we really want to focus on the college student as well, because it's a big change, addressing yourself and who you really are and not having what you need as a support system.
Very true. College is a time for a journey and learning more about yourself, but you can also get lost, and you oftentimes hear people going to universities feel like they are a number is something that they will say.
Absolutely, because you don't have those close friends with you. You don't have your parents right there. And like, yes, you can make phone calls and do FaceTime, but really all of us are just learning how to work in this world. I think after COVID, a lot of things have changed for all of us. The isolation, not having enough resources, right? And the one thing that is positive about COVID in my heart is that we are talking about these things now, right? Because so many people were isolated by themselves and all those emotions. So we do now have online therapy that you can go to. We have counties who are giving out resources. Money is coming in from the federal government. And so I think just letting people know that you're not alone, right? Our motto is no one walks alone, and that there are resources for you, and that there are many people who suffer from mental illness in different degrees. And it's not something that you should be embarrassed or ashamed about.
And you mentioned going into schools. How well do you feel that the children on the younger side are doing to receive the message you're giving them?
So it's surprising when we go into schools because, you go in and like kids are in assemblies, and that's usually a time for them to, crack up and kind of like goof off. But you will notice like when we speak, they are really attentive, empathetic, caring. And I do know, like, we talk about this generation because they're into social media and like bullying online and all these things. But when you're in person, I see a lot of people a lot of the students who want to help, who want to be better, who want to talk about these things. And so they're our future. And so doing these presentations and allowing them to say, listen, you can talk about these things and your peers are not going to make fun of you because we're all in this room and we're all talking about it. It is making a change. I see hope all the time. I get messages. We were just down in Dutchess County, a girls lacrosse team. They were like, we want to sponsor May 1st Mental Health Awareness Day. And so we went there and they raised money. We had a local orthodontist who had kids, if they wore purple bands for their braces, she would donate $5, and they raised over $780 for us. And these are kids who are really involved in it. So the more we talk, talk saves lives. And so the more we talk about it, things will change. We'll start changing that stigma associated with mental illness.
Very important. And it's interesting to see how the kids, they can become so creative in reaching out to help you spread your message. Talking about social media and college, thinking of the past and how you really didn't have to go to college. And it seems to be putting more pressure on children now with college and social media compared to just going to high school. You graduate, you get a job, you have a family, and life moves on. Have you been seeing any other stressors that can cause more emotions in today's world with kids? Have they mentioned something to you that has really been?
So I get messages all the time, even from like athletes who, you look at this big picture, they're doing well in school, they play a sport, they're ready for college, but they feel that pressure of being perfect, right? We have all these images on social media about what everyone should look like and what everyone should be doing. And, and sometimes we don't all fit that mold. And that added pressure of knowing what everyone is doing, right, on social media, what party you didn't get invited to, what you should be looking at, what you should be wearing, what college you should be going to. It's stressful because we can't all fill that bag of, everyone's wonderful, right? And so I think kids have it harder because, when I was a kid, if you weren't invited to a party, you may not even have known about it, but now they know. And if you don't make it into school, because everyone's going to college now, right? Not everyone, but a majority of us are going to colleges. And so getting in is so much harder. Right? And so all those disappointments, it weighs heavy on their heart because they just want to be good.
Very true. In the past, we just had to worry about staying away from Joe Camel ideas
Right.
of cigarette smoking, or you had the DARE program, and now it's gone so far beyond that, which has been very interesting for parents to have to grapple with as well. Any big goals for the future for your foundation?
So we're just trying to expand more and get into more schools and colleges. We do encourage kids to come and work with us at our different events. We usually hold a car show down in Dutchess County where kids can donate their time to help us run the bouncy houses and stuff like that. We're having a golf outing. And the kids will come and bring waters and stuff, because when they are associated with an organization, like teaching our kids to give back to the community is huge, right? Because it gives them self-worth. It makes them feel like they care about others. And so my expansion is basically to speak more about this, right? Have these hard conversations, get kids more involved in helping any nonprofit, right? Just to give back to the community, because then they feel a connection. We all need to feel connected to something. And I feel like a lot of kids who may not fit into that popular group or, sports group, they feel comfortable dealing with our organization. So we always welcome any help we can from the students. And so my thing is just, we want to expand just to talk, have conversations, and make kids feel like it's okay to have issues. You can still be productive, happy, and live a really great life.
It's that idea of that it's okay to sometimes fail up. It's no need to be perfect. That's part of life's journey and learning.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's what our message is. No one should walk alone. We all have our things to deal with. And it's okay to be who you are.
Wonderful, wonderful message. Thank you so much.
Thank
Donna
you.
Thomas, founder of James's Warrior. What's Going On? Presented by Alicia Carter, a show focused on everything local to the Adirondacks and the Capital Region.